Hi, this is Beverly Whalen from the Art Barn. We're going to begin our lesson number 3 on color theory and application of that theory with our colors to our landscape that we are progressing with. In the first lessons, which was brushwork essentials, we did our background to our landscape painting. And in the second lesson, we learned about values and we applied that information to the mountains that were in the middle ground of our landscape painting. Today, we're going to go ahead and do our color theory sheet that I will have attached as I post this. Hopefully you can see that. This is my version of a simple color wheel because it has 3 parts. The primary colors have 3 parts, and I just placed that on my easel, and I'm going to turn the phone so we can talk about this more and how you can do this at home. I want you to get red, yellow, and blue out, and your clear palette, and then a couple of palette knives for mixing paint. Make sure you have some water ready because you'll want to clean your palette knives every time you change a color to keep it nice and clear. Now I'm going to place this to where you can see down here. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to scoot it over a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now, do you see where, let's see, make sure I got it here. Does that help? Oh, that helps. Okay, I'll work from this perspective. Now, we have yellow here. Actually, I put my sheet underneath my palette knife in order to mix the colors first, and then we'll take off the palette and we'll apply the colors to the different spaces on our sheet. The color wheel has been demonstrated many different ways. This is a simplified version. We're only going to do our primary colors today, which are yellow, red, and blue. Our secondary colors, which is a mixture, yellow and red together, of course, makes orange, and that's going to be a secondary. Yellow and blue together make green, and that's going to be a secondary. And red and blue together are going to make purple, which is a secondary. Now, color theory is great. It's not always applicable to our painting because when we get into painting, we end up with maybe a warm yellow or a cool yellow. I tried to put the purest form of yellow I have here. In painting, we also sometimes have a warm red, maybe a cooler red towards the purple side. And then in painting, sometimes we'll have a cool blue, but then it might be warmer towards the purplish side. So you might have a cool blue, you might have warm blue, same with all of these. And it does make a difference when you're mixing colors. So the cooler side is the blues, greens, purples. And the warmer side is yellows, oranges, and reds. And sometimes every color has some kind of tint in it, so you just have to be careful. Now we're going to mix first. We're going to place a little bit of yellow here between the red and the orange. I'm going to use a little bit of red because red is very overpowering. Keep that in mind. You don't always want to put as much red evenly as the other colors in order to get the color that you want because red is very powerful. It's almost like a coral color, isn't it? It's on the red side. So I'm going to wash my palette knife. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow. I'm getting a nice warm color here that's not real bright. If you mixed a different yellow and a different red together, you might get a little different color. Just try to keep it even between these. Okay, now I'm gonna wash my knife off and I'm going to mix yellow and blue, and I want you to do the same thing. I want you to get a green. You may have to put more yellow than blue because blue is pretty powerful. Yellow is more translucent. This yellow is more translucent, not as opaque. It doesn't cover area as well. Now I'm starting to see a green there, are you? Yeah, I like that green, actually. Pretty neat green, pretty natural green too. It's kind of dull and subdued. You can get a brighter green, or you might even get a duller green than that. I'm going to wash my palette knife again. Wash it off. I'm going to mix some blue and red. Now remember, probably won't have to put as much red in there because red is so powerful. I put 2 dollops of blue and 1 dollop of red. I'm going to get a pretty deep violet. Violet is another name for purple. We often use violet. In our language we use purple most of the time, but on the color wheel we would see this in the rainbow as well. We would see a violet. Okay, so far we have our primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. We also have our secondary colors, orange, violet, and green, or orange, green, and violet. I'm going to wash my palette knife again. And a little bit drippy there. And we're going to do our tertiary colors. Our tertiary colors are between our secondary and our primaries. So this is, again, a simplified version, but if you're going to mix orange and yellow together, what do you think you'll get? An yellow-orange color. So we're going to scrape some of this off and put it in that little block here. And a little bit of the yellow. Wash your palette knife. A little bit of yellow. And you have a yellow-orange. Very nice color. So nice for fall leaves. Then, if we mix a little bit of our orange, scrape that off, put that in that block, add a little bit of red, we're going to have a red-orange. Be easy on the red. I have to put some back in my canister. I really dolloped that out. Okay, now we're going to go to violet and red. We're going to make a red violet. So I should have kept a little bit of red, a little bit of violet. And you have a reddish violet. Wash my paint. Palette knife. Let's take a little bit of that violet, put it over there. Do blue, and you've got blue violet. Wash your palette knife. Let's mix some blue with some green. Now it's easy to look at this and, oh yeah, that makes sense. But to try to mix up those paints yourself, that could be a little bit of a challenge, but it's a very good exercise for being able to identify color and how to mix colors. So you got green and you got blue, and that makes a green-blue, or blue-green. Now we're going to mix green and yellow. A little bit more green there, a little bit more yellow. And you have I think I want a little bit more yellow to that yellow-green. Okay. Now I have a nice yellow-green. Really, acrylic paints can be nice and bright if you use the right ones. So that is a simple color wheel. If you look it up online, you're going to get many different versions. Mix the paints yourself. And in theory, you could take these 3 colors and do anything. You come up with any color you wanted to. But in reality, the colors that are out there in tubes are not necessarily pure colors. Now, what happens if you mix a little bit of red? I'm going to put it over to the side here. I didn't have a spot for that. A little bit of blue. Wipe my knife, and a little bit of yellow. What do you think will happen if I mix all those primary colors together? What color do you think that is? You're right. You're right. It's a brown. Now, what if I wanted, though, more yellow brown, something like a maple hardwood color? I would add more yellow to that brown, and I would have more of a yellow brown. I'm going to put that to the side here. Or, I really like the look of oak. And some of those, well, oak can be yellow, but there is a brown color that's more reddish. And I think we have most of that here. I'm going to put it down here. That's a little too bright, got too much red there. Okay, so that's more of a reddish brown. Okay. Now, suppose though that you were making a shadow in a tree and you wanted more of a cool brown. So you could always add some blue, extra blue to that brown, and you would get a dark, cool color. Dark, cool brown, the more blue you add. That's a little bit on the green side. So if you come up with that, you'd have to take a little bit